Hello, welcome to our third robust budgeting workshop as part of our online learning series for mutual aid networks. And today we are going to go over what we mean by work and life redesign and robust budgeting. We're going to give some examples of how we're going about doing it for ourselves. And then we're going to check in with people about how best to continue using these tools, adding more detail from our own lives and projects, and turn them into something that is useful for us to make plans for our lives and also to use to really gain the resources we need. And it sounds like someone else joined us. Hello?
Hi, Scott in Cat Chat.
Hello. So would you like to check in briefly?
Sure. It's cold here in Lansing, but sunny, and just working.
Great. We'll use you as an example later. So
Okay.
actually someone else is coming on too, but so just starting with this slide, a key component of mutual aid networks and something that I think really sets us apart from a lot of similar projects is that we are really focused on the social processes of sharing and learning. And we know that there are a lot of models being used that are helping people economically to do more what they want to do, be able to be better supported in their communities, and that we need to do more. We need to have people have sort of more skin in the game in order to make those things really work as a significant part of our economic life. And so we're working on helping people with the supports, technical assistance, moral support, material support that we all need to make this work for us. So some of this is work redesign assistance, being able to identify what we would really like to do with our time, and break out of some of the molds that we've been in, mostly culturally, where we've just thought of really specific types of work, our marketable skills, as what's valuable, and really explicitly broaden our view to value all kinds of work, which we'll get into more in a minute. And then also robust budgeting to really understand the various types of resources at our disposal, including money, but also including time bank hours and shared resources that we build with each other, and other forms of mutual credit and exchange. Sorry. And what we're doing today has some roots in a workshop that we did during the Man Up Summit here in August, where we took myself as an example. I put roughly my actual expenses for basic needs in my life, and when we tried to break it down into some pretty essential categories that could apply to most people and most projects also. So food, space, wellness, transportation, utilities, care, creativity, leisure, goods, education, help, investment in the future, repair and maintenance, giving, and miscellaneous. So we took my actual monetary expenses. We went through what resources are available to me in the cooperative economy, and also just in managing money better with the help of other people in mutual aid networks. And we saw that within 1 year, I could feasibly reduce my monetary expenses by 37% in 1 year by earning other types of credits for other kinds of work that I'm doing. And at the same time, we mapped it to my work and life redesign, and kind of got a picture of the different types of activities that I want to do. Sorry, it keeps flipping back and forth. The different kinds of activities I would like to do, and then what I could most appropriately expect to earn, what types of credits I could expect to earn for those activities, and then mapping them to meeting my needs. So this workshop and this process that we're developing, we would like to create tools to make it easy for everybody to do this, make it a lot less messy of a process than what I did, work through the messy parts together here as a small group that are committed to participating in this learning series, and then create some tools, for example, a spreadsheet that could be attached to your profile in the main man, and then a reason and way to make this really useful for people is we're working in the main man on creating project views that would show the different types of needs an individual project has in order to come to fruition. So for example, if you see this Operation Whitewash at the bottom of it, this is from the Yes Men's Action Switchboard, and we're using this as our model. So at the bottom you see they have a certain amount of need for money, they have a certain amount of need for people, and a certain amount of need for other types of goods. And then ways that you can actually contribute. So we are looking into ways that we could create this as a tool that we could use for people and projects. So you could actually be somewhat crowdsourcing your own personal needs through the main man too, and tracking the exchanges that you're making through there, and just another way to sort of integrate the different aspects of our economic lives in a way that make it work for us as a whole picture in our personal economies and the economies of our projects. Does anybody want to ask any kind of question or make a comment at this point before we jump in and start trying this out a bit?
Staff, at this point, do we have a working model of that that budget template? Has it been transferred from Flipchart to Excel or anything at this point?
So right now I'm pasting that in the and pasting that in the chat.
Okay.
And I'm going to it here, and yeah, so it'd be great if you guys can check this out. So what we thought we would do is step through. I'll just describe what we were thinking about doing. I talked this over with Chris yesterday, and if anybody feels like it'd be easier for you to start with a different starting point, or you have questions before we begin, let me know. So we thought we would start with the work redesign. How are we spending our time now? How would we like to be spending our time? And then sort of breaking things down as much as we can into these different types of work that Ann Snick helped frame up for us earlier. I'll talk a little bit more about that then. But just getting a sense of how we would like to be spending our time, and then we can start getting a sense of what different types of resources would be available for different types of work. We plan to be drilling down into these further in different ways too. For example, many of us would like to do some sorts of work that would contribute to the main man. So then we also need to do a robust kind of budget for the main man, and what are the needs for work to contribute to the main man, and what are the kinds of resources that people could earn to do that, and that's how we can help put together sort of a staffing picture for that. So we start with the work and life redesign, and the reason we thought it'd be good to start with that is that's the key, that's the goal, that's the core of the philosophy and the mission of mutual aid networks, is to create opportunities, or to create means for everyone to discover and succeed in work they want to do with the support of their community. So that work you want to do has to be primary. Then we go back to what kinds of compensation we can earn for those kinds of work. So here then we go back and we go into the income side and start looking at that. So I started plugging in myself as an example here, and then in the expense side, this is where we plugged in the beginning numbers of what we did on that graph or on that messy piece of paper that I showed you. And then at the bottom here, what we encourage you to do, if you see across the bottom the different tabs, so there's a template tab that we would encourage you to copy over. And then Julian and Scott started their examples here, and they use different templates. So that's another thing that, so you can copy over any of these and use it as your own template if there's one that resonates with you more than others. That's another thing that we are playing with here. So I want to stress again, like this learning series isn't something where a couple of us have things to impart to others of you. We have things to sort of catch people up on, but overall, we're creating this stuff together, and we really need people's experience to inform us what kind of tools are going to work for people. And I think different types of tools will resonate with different people, so we want to have a good variety of options for people. That was a super long answer to a short question, Bruce. Anyone else have questions or any comments or suggestions for getting started on this piece?
I guess one question I have is, what is the experience of the mutual aid network, you and everybody else, as far as accounting? Do we have those of you involved in this that have, whether schooling in accounting or experience in accounting, or where are we on accounting credentials as we do this kind of stuff?
Among us, you guys can say what kind of experience you have. I only have my own experience. We're asking Laura Garrett to help us out, and we're going to talk more with Jamie Becca, who does professional consulting work on work redesign. But I don't believe any of us here are any kind of accountants. I know Bruce does some. We all do various kinds of administration, but we're just setting up budgets for people, right? For ourselves right now, and like figure out these tools. But does anyone else want to share anything about accounting experience?
Yes, I would. Scott, I don't have any accreditation of any sort, but my interest in alternative type of accounting systems goes back to when I worked at General Motors in the early 1990s. I was part of the network of folks with the TELUS Institute that we were a part of the network of, where we were developing the Global Reporting Initiative standards, which have now become sort of the de facto gold standard of stakeholder accounting standards for non-monetary measures. Also, over the last few years, I've done extensive research on how various initiatives and groups are developing alternative measures of wealth and capital. I'm also part of the International Institute of Accounting Standards and Evaluation Standards, IAVC, where they're developing alternative measures to include things like social capital, intellectual capital, as well as internalizing external costs. And so, although I don't have any, degrees or accreditation with any of those things, a lot of the things that I'm developing are informed by my background in that.
Awesome. Thanks. Anyone else want to share anything? And Kurt, that's a good question, because at some point, like after and we're not, I mean, here we're creating these drafts to see what works for us and how we use them and how we can make budgets that would apply to ourselves. But maybe you have raised a good step that we could take soon after wading through more of this ourselves, is engaging some people who do have professional experience with accounting in different ways, so they can give different perspectives on it. And do you have any a particular background or interest in it yourself, or have people you'd like to engage?
No, I just kind of look at, I guess I kind of look at it, this is almost like a business pursuit, and I just kind of look at the function of an accountant in the success of a business for that fiscal success. And so I just kind of was reaching at that thought that, having somewhere in the pipeline that somebody with, accounting expertise, might at some point as we proceed this year, offer great value to, to help us steer the economic successes behind all of this.
Oh, definitely. We are definitely planning to
Did we lose you? Stephanie?
Yeah, she disappeared from my oral inputs.
Oh, I didn't think you lost
You're
me.
back.
You know? Okay. I don't know what happened. It didn't look like anything happened over here.
You said we're definitely planning, and then you went out.
Oh yeah, we're definitely planning to engage someone with accounting experience for the overall, help with managing the organization itself. But for now, yeah, we're just doing this here with us. So if it's all right, I'll go over to the work redesign piece. Are you guys ready for that?
Sure.
Mhm.
All right. So are people on this document here? I wonder, so actually, what do you think? I was just realizing maybe we should copy this over. Also, copy this page and people work on their own. What do you think? Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So go ahead and I think, can you all see how I did this?
That's copying a document, not the tab.
Don't I want to copy the document?
I don't know.
I don't understand what you mean. What's the difference between copying the document and copying the tab? Can you just tell me what you mean?
If people just copy tabs and then it stays in the same document. Do you see what I'm saying? You broke up there for a moment. I couldn't hear you.
Did you see my message?
So if you go to the tab you want to copy, work redesign, and just right click it and then click or click it, left click it maybe, and then duplicate.
Great. Can you guys hear me again?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, if everyone can make your own copy of work redesign and maybe put your name on it. So I'm just gonna call mine by my name, Steph's work redesign, and I'll just show you what I have done, I guess, or what I am doing. I'm gonna skip the currently spending your time right now, I think, and go back to this slide where I determine how I would like to spend my time, unless someone else wants to be an example of this. Actually, Chris, do you want to do this and do all three, do the questions about currently and then in the future, or do you want me to keep being an example?
Maybe if you don't mind continuing, that would be good.
Okay. And is anyone else interested in being an example? If no one's like just to do it, I'll just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet to I don't have any numbers to share just yet.
Okay. So actually, I'll do how I'm currently spending my time, and I'm gonna just start this fresh. So currently I'm thinking of 2015. So I'll think of this as last week, how I was currently spending my time, so I can show going from this to what I want to be doing. So I was spending about 40 hours a week on work between mutual aid networks and Dane County Time Bank, sort of laying groundwork, administering organizations, doing fundraising. I was paid for, I don't know how to break this down, so I'll break this down later. I was paid money for 30 of those hours, and I'll actually record hours for 10 hours a week of those. Collective work, I actually have been doing quite a bit of stuff in my neighborhood to work on responding to the police shootings here. So that's the first thing I think of. Um, so I'm just gonna say, oops, I put the hours in the wrong spot. Sorry. Oh, sorry. So productive work, man, and ETV. I should break those down further, so I'll do that later. So collective work, I'm going to say CRT, that's the name of the community response team. And I would say I probably average about an hour a week on that. I'll say 2 hours a week, because, yeah, that's probably more accurate. I'll come back to collective work later, because I think there are more things that I'm not thinking of. Care work, let me think. I probably, yeah, I guess I would say some of what's been happening for me is there's just been a lot of people in different kinds of crisis. So I'm going to call it crisis support, and I would say averaging about an hour a week. And that's interesting. I've never put something down like that before. So it's an interesting process for me to think about recording time like that, and if it's something I would want to do. Self-work, I practice music a lot. And I would say I probably practice music about, I don't know, I probably do music at least 15 hours a week. Keeping balance, this is kind of significant too. And some of it I've been doing for money actually, so it'll be interesting to break this down. And some of it I've just been doing. So I would say keeping balance might be about 4 or 5 hours a week, but I'm not really sure. So that was my life last year.
Stephanie, did you have productive work for music too, like playing concerts?
Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah, I should put, and we'll just put, I guess we'll probably average like 1 hour a week for that. Okay, so that's my 2015 picture, and I'm sure that more detail is going to come up for me in my mind, but this is sort of a rough example. So any questions? Should I keep going? Okay. So in the coming year, for productive work, I have just arranged to do some capacity building for the time bank. And I'm going to say this is over the year, it'll probably average to about 15 hours a week, but maybe not, yeah, so maybe that. For collective work, I really plan to start spending a lot more time building a mutual aid network in and around the Social Justice Center, which is in my neighborhood, and it's where the Time Bank office is, and this would benefit my business. I'm interested in us being an individual member, or I mean an organizational partner in it, and so I think it will help. Well, I know it'll help build the commons in my neighborhood, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. But I would expect to earn hours for this. So, so I'm going to call it SJC Man Development. And as I'm talking, I realize I'm making what I consider to be a mistake, which is I'm talking too much and thinking too much about what I would earn for each thing as I'm typing it in. And I had really wanted just the work we want to do to be sort of predominant. So I'll try to stop doing that, but it just kind of shows that I'm really immersed in that too. But I expect that I would be giving 4 or 5 hours a week. I'll just guess 5 hours a week at that. Care work, I think that, I do expect to be doing some additional amount of care work because I'm going to be coordinating some more things related to time banking, care teams, and capacity building. So I expect that I'll be fallback person for direct care work too if I'm going to take on coordinating some of that stuff. So I expect to do some care team work and probably will end up doing at least 2 hours a week of that, but I won't know for a while. I continue to work on music, and I don't want to do that any less, so I'll say 15 hours a week. I also really want to work on my video editing skills. So I'm going to give myself a couple hours a week. No, I'm going to give myself at least 4 hours a week because it's very easy to get sucked into that. And I'll put some video editing in collective work and productive work too, or video making, I guess. Oh, you know what? We don't have something specifically as creative work, but I guess there's a lot of creative work that goes in all of these things. So another thing, as I'm like thinking aloud, talking through this, is I think we will also see as we do this how we want to categorize things, what kinds of categories make sense as essential categories, what makes sense as subcategories. So we're building things right now around Anne's work and basic types of work that she's identified that are prevalent through all kinds of cultures. But it may or may not be the way that we map our work ultimately in the main man. It's something that we're playing with. So video, I'll just put some video in each video. And that's definitely something I want to be doing much more of. And I guess collective work, I will also say public speaking. So I'm planning to tour this year and just do a lot more presentations about mutual aid networks. And I'm guessing that'll come out to, you know, I was going to say just a couple hours a week, but I think it'll average out to be actually quite a bit because when I go on tour, I'm doing quite a bit of it. So maybe I'll say 5 hours a week over the course of the year. Oops, what am I doing? Okay. Keeping the balance, I think that I'll be doing more of that, and some of that is going to be developing man processes for the interactions between the different types of resources, just like what we're doing. I'll also be developing and using these kind of processes. And Chris put commons down here as a category, and this is here just to remind us this is another aspect of something we want to track in some way, and we're not sure exactly how, but we do always want to incentivize building commonly owned, commonly shared resources. And I'm thinking about playing with something like commons credits, where if you contribute to the commons, you get sort of all access passes to parts of the commons that we're building together. So something that really just incentivizes creating much more free flow of resources and rebuilding of the commons. And we just thought it'd be good to flag things that are contributions to the commons in some way, because then, so we've done this work redesign. I'm going to come back to this other piece of it in a minute, but then we go back to the budget, and then we can see all those kinds of work. I'll put in those kinds of work, and we'll see what I can, you know, what I have lined up, some of the things I know I can earn money for, some of the things I don't have that lined up, some of the things I know I can earn time bank hours for because they fit in with what the time bank's doing and projects, some of the things, yeah, some in order to make some of them work, I have to build a savings pool, for example, in and around the Social Justice Center. So should we jump into this piece and I can show how the work redesign maps to this, or do you want to back up and ask any questions or make any suggestions about this work redesign piece? Okay, so feel free to speak up if I end up moving on and you want to back up, and then otherwise I'm going to come over here.
So in the work redesign tab, there's also what tasks you would like others to help do or help with. Do you want to fill in that part or not?
This is what I was saying I was going to come back to. I just wanted to show, if that's okay, I just wanted to show how it maps to the income first of all, and then, pardon?
That's fine.
Okay. So probably what would be good for me to do is copy all this over. And yeah, I'm just figuring this out as we go, so bear with me. All right. So I've copied over this other stuff, and I think, so one of the things that'll help me to do, or help us to do, is have a way that we can see them both at once. And I could do that right now by just opening another window, so I'll do that. And then I think it'll help as we develop the tools, like figure out how we make views that we can see both easily. All right. Oops, sorry. I don't know if I can make this happen properly. Okay, one more try. Sorry about this. Okay. So, back over here. So my productive work, what I should do now is put in these hours from my work and life design. So if you go to the top, these are what my expenses were, and this is what my income was for productive work. And I didn't put in time bank hours, which I should do. I used some time bank hours in the year, but it was quite marginal, which I'm not proud of, but this is one of the reasons that I see a need for mutual aid networks, is to get people like me to use the time bank to its utmost value. So now we'll go into next year, productive work. So I actually did a little work on this yesterday, looking at what my expenses were, having cut them back. So I'll go back up to that in a minute. But so for my productive work, what I'll do is enter in what I want to be doing for next year. So 15 hours a week in the time bank. And then what I would do is do the math of the amount of money I can make for that. So yeah, I started like just putting what my hourly rate would be in those areas and just estimating what I think I can bring in money for some of these things when I'm classifying as productive work. But just to, if you click on these, it gives you the definition of this type of work. Productive work is about meeting your and your family's material needs. And I was just kind of going by my monetary needs, but if I were doing something like growing a garden that's contributing to my actual food needs, or if I were creating a savings pool, I guess, that we're going to paying my mortgage, for example. I could include those, I think, in productive work because they're things that do meet the material needs of my family and are displacing dollars in that way. Does anybody have questions or comments about that? Do you see how that could work? So I'm just gonna say I am actually planning to attempt to do something that would reduce my mortgage payment through a savings pool. So I'm gonna just put a line for that in my productive work, and then say in year 1, I'm going to aim to displace a couple $100s a month by making a savings pool that reduces my interest load. So does that make sense?
I would think, I'm not sure, but I would imagine that usually reductions in that would happen towards the end of a process instead of a beginning of a process with a savings pool.
Yeah, it might, but it might not. So yeah, so that I could end up putting that in year 3, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, yeah, and so those would be the kind of things that we work through when we actually are working on creating that resource and seeing how it can meet our needs. So I was actually thinking of it in terms of like people join the savings pool and instantly like reduce the interest rate when you join the savings pool. Like that's sort of the incentive. But you're right that we would have to evaluate those things and when they make the difference. So here I'm just trying to kind of go through to show it as an example, and to think about how we could include these other kinds of credits in the productive work. So just consider it an example, and it's not something I know could happen. So for MAN SJC work, I've already said I want to do 5 hours a week. And so that would total to 5 time bank hours, or 20 time bank hours a month. Sorry. So this is another thing I'm realizing as we go through this is our we're doing hours a week here and then a monthly budget here. So that's just something we would need to bring into line to make it easy to go between the two. But I want to check in.
Your income also, that should be monthly as well, I think.
Yeah, I just put it at the top here when I was working it out in my head yesterday because I actually need to do this to figure out what I need to take on for work. So I put the yearly one just there because that was my yearly expenses and I wanted to make sure I was going to meet them. And then I put the monthly cost right here in the heading. So that was just for my own exercise.
Gotcha.
So I want to just give a moment for people to say, do you see how you can start plugging these in yourself? Anyone? Scott, Murto, do you want to show us what you've been doing, or do you want to just do people want to weigh in?
Whatever seems. I like what you're doing. I like the direction. It's a different way to organize it the way that I'm doing it, but that's okay. I think diversity of approaches. We're going to create a better end set of products that people can pick and choose from. Yeah.
So I think we have 8 minutes left, and I think what I'd like to suggest is, and we'll check in to see if anyone feels stuck about whether you could begin this process yourself. What I would like to suggest is if we all feel like we could begin this process ourselves, that we make a plan to do it on our own, to come back together and have committed to doing it. And then we come back together in some form, whether it's one of these web learning series or whether it's just a little subgroup where we check in and look at each other's work. We do it, and then we sort of check in about what did and didn't work for us, what ways we want to tweak the tool, and then we come back possibly as a web learning series where we present it, where we've made a tool that we've all used, we've each created hopefully a 3-year budget, and we present it as a web learning series and in the form of a tool that can be used. So why don't we just go through and, yeah, I guess I'd like to hear your reactions to that. So my question to each of you is, do you feel that you could go and do this on your own? If not, we'll come back to it. And then if everyone does feel that way, would you like to proceed in this way? We do this ourselves and then we come back and present it after we've made the tool into something we're ready to present. Chris?
I think to me, it's, well, I mean, I helped create it, so it makes sense to me, so that's probably not helpful. I think one thing that Scott's kind of approach has that this example doesn't is really about assets, like what do you have, you know, like material assets. Like, for example, you have a house that you've thought about renting out when you're traveling, so that would be an asset. So I don't know how to record stuff like that in this version. He does it on his a little bit, it seems. I'm not sure if there's other things that could help have a more holistic picture for this version.
How about this? How about if on the templates we make comments, and actually, how about if, shoot, no, because then everyone will be, so how about if I copy the template tabs, or how we can do this, we'll copy something and have one of these be sort of the commentary. So we'll have the tool and people can be making suggested edits here as you go. Would that work?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with you. Yeah, this spreadsheet that you made is working for me. It's like getting clear for me. I can think of ways that it would look different, that would be more intuitive, but I never know how to make that happen. And I think that there could be ways to bring in the stuff that Scott has included, and Julian had his own template too, and there might be some mashup of the different approaches that will end up suiting all of us, or having just different options to choose from. So Bruce, how do you feel about being able to move forward with this? And if you're ready, do you like the idea of we get it done and then present it at a future date that we agree on?
Yeah, I'm interested in giving it a test drive. I can anticipate needing some tech support either from you or Chris or Scott along the way, just to, you know, someone to review my understanding of the numbers. The one thing that occurs to me is, having done a little bit of family budgeting recently in preparation for a meeting with a financial advisor, thinking about retirement planning, was how to, I assume we're just doing individual budgeting as opposed to household budgeting where there are, you know, two incomes.
We would like to, we need tools that can apply to all kinds of situations. So I don't think we should assume anything. I mean, if a household budget is what you need, we need to learn how to do that too. So
right.
Your experience doing that would be really useful. I think the more different kinds of needs and approaches we have reflected, the better we'll be, probably.
Okay. That stands to reason to kind of expand the repertoire and make it applicable to a number of different people's experiences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. And these, what you guys are saying, are helping me think of ways for us to come back together and support each other getting this done. So thank you. That's really helpful. Kurt?
Well, I guess I don't know. I'm in a little bit of I guess it might be a learning curve or a sorting out process because I'm trying to catch up here. I mean, I obviously wasn't at the Man Up Summit, and there's a lot of stuff on the website that I haven't gone through yet. And I kind of feel like going into exercises like this is a little bit, doing it just for the sake of doing it. I don't have a context for dedicating time to give this content. So I guess in terms of asking if I'm comfortable to go ahead and to start using tools like this, I guess I would say no.
Okay, that's totally fine. Yeah, yeah, the rest of us have been on the other calls and are sort of doing this in our lives right now. So no, that's super helpful. So it makes sense that you wouldn't be the audience for this, us working to make for people when they're ready for it. Cool, thanks. Scott? You comfortable moving forward with this and coming back together to present it to others? Okay, so I don't know if we can't hear Scott or you guys can't hear me. Can the rest of you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So what I'm gonna suggest is
Oh, wait.
Oh, great. Hi.
Well, I'm sorry. Did you guys hear? Did you guys hear anything I said?
No, we didn't hear.
Nope. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted and I wasn't. Yeah. Definitely. I'm going to keep going forward with mine, and like I said, my approach is a bit different. You're at a level of granularity that is overlaps with mine, but I'm coming at it from a sort of a different viewpoint, and I'm adding some things like this whole. I'm really into this asset mapping thing. This is a big part of what we're going to try to do here and apply these alternative measures of wealth and capital evaluation and whatnot. And I'm going to start, from my own particular life and the things that I like to do, and then try to develop that template so that we might be able to apply it to the larger community as we come together in meetings, with the Makers Network and, the CSA folks and the co-ops, and start out at that larger level of granularity. And in these series of meetings we're going to have to just talk about, I'll get feedback from folks, and we'll go through iterations of like what seems the most valuable. But definitely applying, the approach you're taking, but just sort of from a different viewpoint. In terms of like the point you start from with the 5 different categories of work, for me, that doesn't work for me, because categorizing the things that I do in my life and putting them into those different slots there's so much overlap. The things that I do that are productive and whatnot are also self-care. And so it really, pardon?
Just do it how it works for you. That'll be really helpful. If you can make your own categories, it'll just help us understand. And then we might be, collectively we might go through and see how the different things may or may not apply, and yeah, just be able to compare it would be great.
Yeah. But the whole entire process, the path you've taken us down on this is absolutely wonderful. It being able to explore the different accounting ways and thinking about our lives differently and how we spend our time and what our expenses are and resources and whatnot. It is a totally new framework that does totally work for me. It's wonderful.
Cool. I think we can really get somewhere. What I wanted to do is suggest that Chris, Bruce, Scott, and I make a plan to have another web meeting where we've each done some work on this and we work through it a little bit more together and compare notes about tools and how to modify the tools. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's okay that the categories can overlap. I think the idea is you can place any activity in whatever category you think it fits best. And I think it's good that it has a breadth that it'll help people remember or keep in mind different ways they spend time. So trying to be more of a catch-all, even though there's overlap between the categories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool. So how long do we need? And are you okay with adding a meeting, a web meeting to discuss this? Or we could connect it with one of our others if that makes sense.
I think it would make sense to add it into maybe a social work group meeting.
Okay. Yeah, great. Why don't we just dedicate the next social work group meeting to this? So that would be January 19th. And we generally are mostly on that. I think, Bruce, maybe you're not always, but would that work for you? It's at 3 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday, January 19th.
Let's see. That is about the time that's Central Time, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about the time my daughter gets home, and I have like a half an hour of kind of overseeing her transition into the home routine.
We could make it the financial working group meeting on January 26th, because this is very relevant.
Yeah. That would probably work out better for me.
Okay.
I don't know about other folks.
I think we all tend to be on that. Is that good for you, Scott?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Cool. So let's do it then. I think that'll work out really nicely. Cool.
Good.
All right. We have a plan of action. And then after we do that, we'll get a sense of when we can be ready to present. And part of what I'm going to be doing here for my work for the Time Bank is I will be hosting a lot of workshops. I'm just going to be doing a lot of trainings and workshops and capacity building stuff. And so I'm planning to do in-person robust budgeting workshops and just start scheduling some regular things that happen here once our tools are ready, and then we can have a lot more people applying it and helping refine it. So that's something to look to, and I'm going to be aiming to get those rolling sometime, hopefully before the end of February if possible, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so yeah, it's time to end this web learning series. So I'll just ask you to stop the recording, Chris, and if we want to do a quick checkout, we don't need to